Hey, everybody, it's Scott Bischoff for Detroit Lions Podcast, recording for you guys on a Friday night. This is going to be a different one. This is not a game preview. This is going to be draft-related stuff. We'll get into this, but it's just some generalized thoughts on where we are with the draft right now, and it's way too soon for draft stuff, but we're still going to do it. Why not? Coming at you. Stay tuned. It's coming up right now. A couple of disclaimers before we go anywhere, and we're going to hit these disclaimers a bunch. The first one is there isn't a single player that I feel like I have a strong, solid, finished opinion on. So anything I'm telling you today, I may change my mind as I see more. I may not. I don't know. Today it's just we're just going to have a generalized opinion about this topic. If the Lions are drafting in the top 5 or top 3, whatever it is, and they have the potential to take quarterback Bryce Young, quarterback CJ Stroud, defensive interior player Jalen Carter, or defensive end pass rusher Will Anderson from Alabama. Where do you go and why? So that's what this conversation is going to be. I don't have a name for this yet because it's sort of silly to be doing it. We're going to continue to do it. I'm going to do it every week because I think we can have we can talk about the draft in a generalized way before positions like the draft order starts to get set, and there's more of a consensus as to what players are and where they're going to be. Again, disclaimer: a lot of what I'm going to tell you, I may change my mind on as we get further into this process. So it's basically, whatever you want to consider it, a view from 35,000 feet into where the Lions are and what their needs might be if they draft as early as is possible. So the first question is, what do you do at the quarterback position? And that's a Jared Goff conversation. But I think at this point in time, it's pretty clear, unless you're really a Jared Goff believer, it's pretty clear that the Lions do need to move away and figure out a way to get some better, more dynamic play, and maybe more dynamic two-way play than what Goff can give them. That then goes into a deeper conversation about how you do that. But one of the things that that you do is you draft one early. So if the Lions are set on drafting a quarterback early, they're going to take, my guess would be Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. And it kind of makes the rest of what we're going to talk about today a little bit moot, because if you've taken a quarterback, the players that we're looking at, that we're going to talk about, the Georgia defensive interior player and the Alabama edge rusher, they're not available because you took quarterback. So that's the big thing. So let's approach it as if the Lions are taking quarterback, and we'll just go about it this way now, and then we'll change it up in a few minutes. So if both are available, which seems a little unlikely, but who knows? Let's say the Lions end up with a second pick, and I don't know. I don't know who would have the first pick. But let's say that they're okay at quarterback and they take Will Anderson because he's just so dynamic, right? So that leaves you with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud and a few other quarterbacks too that I'm not going to mention just because we're trying to keep this a little on the shorter side. But so if it's Bryce Young or Stroud, you have to then choose between those guys. And to me, it's like these are polar opposite players. Bryce Young does it all. He's a very flashy, polished quarterback who has high level traits. He does really good things with the football. He's got a great release. It's one of the things that stands out right away is the ball is out very quickly. The biggest thing, and there are flaws with this game, but the biggest thing that as fans and that the team's going to have to deal with is his size. He is like a 5'10.5", 5'11" max, 185, 190 pound guy. That's it. So are you going to, I mean, he's smaller than your average high school point guard in basketball. So is a team going to be comfortable making that selection and giving that guy the keys to the franchise at that size? And he's almost like it's a total anomaly because I don't know that there's been, if there has been, it's just one or two players under 6 feet and under 190 pounds to be drafted to play quarterback in the NFL. It's so rare. And are you willing to take all that risk on because he is such an anomaly size-wise? So, but from a play standpoint, he deals with pressure great. He does. He's got a great release. He's got plenty of arm strength. If you want to get really jazzed up about Bryce Young, just look at the connection he had with Jameson Williams last year and all those deep throws that were just drops in the bucket that were pretty throws. No questions about arm strength, none of it, right? So clearly there are things that he will have to work on. He's mobile. He's got enough arm to make any throw, to make them all work. It's just, is the size an impediment? And is it something that you think teams will hold against him just because he is so small? The things that he does as a passer, as a quarterback, are, I think, to me, and again, remember, very generalized and not finished from as far as what I think, far ahead of where the other quarterbacks are. So just quarterback play, he is far ahead of everybody else. It's just he's very, very small. So that's Young. So then we get to Stroud, and Stroud, the elephant in the room, the Ohio State system, the Ohio State quarterback. I would prefer Young over Stroud. Stroud's a bigger quarterback. He is your prototype, big quarterback. He likes to be in the pocket. Ohio State gives him a clean pocket for the most part. They have. He does not want to leave the pocket. He wants to be a pocket passer. It looks like you have to force him to leave the pocket and make plays while running, and he's just not comfortable or wanting to do that. So it negates the concept of having a dual threat because he really only wants to be a pocket passer. It doesn't mean that he can't do it. He can. It's just what he wants to do is be in the pocket and picking apart downfield, where Ohio State keeps him clean and he doesn't have to deal with much pressure. The Northwestern game is going to give teams pause for what he looked like in that game in the wind. We'll see how the season finishes for him, but to me, he looks like a player who needs really good protection and he needs time. He's got plenty of arm strength. I think there are certain throws that he makes better than other throws. So we're seeing a little more limited player. Not real limited. He's a very good prospect, but just a little more limited than what Bryce Young is. He's just more. He's just got more size. Interestingly, he doesn't use it. He doesn't want to leave the pocket and run or make throws on the run. They're starting to kind of push him that way and force him to do that. But so the Lions are in a unique position because they are going. If they do draft a quarterback, you're drafting a player who comes in with and will play behind a really good offensive line. So they do have that going for them. It's just there's a little bit of concern about what happens when he is pressured. What happens when you ask him to do things outside structure? Does it work? Are those situations, is that a good situation for him to be in? Pressured and then on the move, trying to get the ball down the field. And it just doesn't seem to be his game. So we'll see how the season, evolves and what happens as things move on. But I just, there's a hesitation with him where I worry about how he's going to handle with pressure at the next level, especially because his desire and maybe his vibe is not to leave the pocket, which brings more pressure on himself. So we'll see. Again, very generalized. Don't crush me in the comments if there's been a play here or there where you've seen him roll out and make passes. I'm not saying he doesn't do it. I'm just saying that that's generally what his game is. So there you have the compare contrast of the quarterbacks, and there's a decision that the Lions will maybe have made if they're in a position where they didn't get quarterback. Let's say they're picking third or fourth, and quarterback goes 1 and 2, and those guys aren't there. Then is it Anderson or Carter? Then it's a really interesting conversation. Carter to me is he's going to play as a 3 technique, or in some cases maybe as a 2-eye, but he can play outside as far as a 5. He's big. He's like 6'3" and 310 pounds. He's very powerful. He's very disruptive with his first step. The thing that he does that intrigues me is that he would open up. He would open up and make the job of the edge players around him, specifically on his side, much easier because they'd have a one-on-one matchup, and most likely a widened one-on-one matchup, because Carter's going to cross face and get into some double teams where he might pressure, and that may force the quarterback to leave the pocket and run into defensive end on that side of the field. So now when I say 3 tech, that's Aaron Donald's position. That's also Chris Jones from Kansas City's position. He is much more a Chris Jones player and nothing like what Aaron Donald is. Aaron Donald is, he wins through leverage and power and just brute strength to get into the backfield. And then he's super quick while playing with great leverage because he's short. Carter's not that. Carter is more stand-up, disruptive, power. He's going to get his shoulder, even when he's double-teamed, he's going to get his shoulder into the gap and eventually split the gap. So to me, I see much more of a Chris Jones type player than really anything else. And if you're a Chiefs fan and you watch their defense, yes, please. Chris Jones is an incredible football player, super disruptive player. The things that Jalen Carter would do in Detroit is he would command double teams. He and Aleem McNeil would, for the most part, command 3 blockers. So depending on if a line adjusts and shifts, if they have like slide calls on or whatever it is, I'm not going to say that the center and both guards are going to handle Aleem McNeil and Jalen Carter, because sometimes when you slide a protection, a tackle is going to get involved in that kind of a thing. So we'll just keep it as simple as saying that Aleem McNeil and Carter would occupy 3 blockers, which would then leave both defensive ends, both pass rushers, one-on-one in some space. We have seen that a player like Aiden Hutchinson likes that. Last year, Charles Harris was a stand-up outside linebacker in the Lions 3-4 system, and he thrived. So just from the concept of what Carter can do for a player like Hutchinson, or the defensive end on the other side of the ball, you can see how he could be such an intriguing player for them, and how he could be the cause, and he could do some things. And the beneficiary is rookie, number 2 overall pick from last year. Carter's a monster. He is a really good football player. I think he was their best defensive lineman even last year, which I know is saying a lot because they had 3 first-round picks on that D-line. They had Jordan Davis, who went, I want to say, I don't remember, 14 or 16. Devontae Wyatt went late in the first round to Green Bay. Trayvon Walker went first overall to Jacksonville. So, you had a very talented defensive line, but as far as snap in, snap out, being a disruptive presence and being a very difficult player to block, Jalen Carter he is a monster. And he offers more than just what he does. So I know I've repeated it. I'll do it one more time, and then we'll move on to Anderson. So I just think he gives the keys and opens up the door a little wider for their pass rushers. And some blitz lanes. He's going to be very difficult, and interior offensive linemen are going to have their hands full with him. He's that guy. He's a dude. He's a dog. Will Anderson. I feel like of all these guys we've talked about, obviously not the quarterbacks too in some ways, but the quarterback position is such a impactful position that it almost stands alone. After that, edge rusher, if you can get a premium one, it does too. And as much as I love Jalen Carter's game, the thought of passing on Will Anderson, especially a few years down the line, could come off as I might look back at this video and think, what the hell were you talking about? And I might do that in a week. I don't know. Just because passing on Anderson feels like a crime against, all things sensical football. Jalen Carter's a great player, but Will Anderson is a premium pass rusher. Something like we haven't seen in a while. I know that his final year in college has not been like great, but it's his final year in college, if you know what I'm saying. So, as soon as Alabama becomes eliminated from, and they may be now, I think it might be in his best interest just to say, hey, I'm kind of washing my hands of this and getting ready for the draft. And I don't blame him a bit. His first step quickness, his ability to turn the corner, his ability to finish, they're all rare. And to pass that up for anything else feels like, not quarterback, but to pass that up for anything other than your premium quarterback feels like a horrible football choice, just because these guys just do not come around very often. He would have been penciled in, written in pen in January as the number 1 pick in the draft last year, and there would not have been a debate about it. And then you go Trayvon Walker and Trayvon Walker, then Hutchinson, and then Thibodeau go in the top 5, and Anderson's better than all those guys. And I think, like, you have Aiden Hutchinson here already. You throw Will Anderson in the mix. You have Josh Pascal here, who's like your versatile inside-out guy. Yes, you still need a penetrating 3 technique type, but I think you can find that guy with the Rams pick, which I'm hoping is around pick 10 this year. That'd be wonderful. So passing on Will Anderson just feels like it could be, in the end, a very bad choice. Great scenario would be to take Anderson with the first pick and then take the most disruptive 3 technique available and just let them go. So now you have Aleem McNeil, you have Pascal, you have Onzarike if he gets back. You have whoever the interior tackle is that you'd be taking. If there, obviously it has to be one there worth of it. You then have Hutchinson, you have Charles Harris, you have Julian Okwara, you have other guys, but you have players that command attention. Hutchinson is commanding attention, but you throw Williams on the other side, and it's like you really better know where Williams. If you throw Anderson on the other side, you better know where he is. And I'm not saying that makes Hutchinson a bit of an afterthought, but it really does open him up to playing on the side of the ball where he doesn't have to deal with tight ends, where you can stand him up and let him come forward. So it's a little bit of a philosophical thing. Like, which way do you, how do you want to approach it? In the end, I could make the argument that Carter fits where the Lions are better, and he makes more sense for what they have. But I do believe that Anderson is a better player and a more impactful player. And it might mean that you might have to move Hutchinson and play him in situations that may not be best for him. But as a team goes and as a defensive line goes, I mean, good luck. That has the potential to be a pretty dominant defensive line. That alone. You throw Will Anderson in the mix with Hutchinson, with Pascal, with McNeil, and with whoever you bring in to penetrate as a 3-tech. If it's Onzarike, great. My assumption is it'll be somebody else too. That has the makings of a dominant defensive line, an explosive, athletic, powerful, great first steps, all those things. So that's kind of where the brain is just kind of rattling around these thoughts. Like, what do they do if they're in the top 5? And is it quarterback? And if it's not quarterback, how do you debate and sort of figure out these two premium guys? Because they are. We gotta come up with a name for this sort of this whatever just verbal flow happening here. Again, please do not take anything I'm saying right now as draft informative, final opinions. It's just conversational. We will have solidified opinions. They'll make sense. We'll try to explain our reasoning for where we're at. That's not now. All we're doing right now is having a conversation about what if, and this is the conversation I'd be having behind the scenes kind of stuff. Next week it could be I'm looking at safeties, or these are the 3 or 4 corners that have popped, and these are the reasons I like them. How do they fit? Kind of stuff. Let's just call them like draft dumps, because that's kind of what they are. It's just like a mind dump that's happening related to the draft. So this is draft dump number 1. I hope there was some value for you guys for this. We could go on and on and on about this. I could go on. We're almost 24 minutes. I could make this a lot longer. There's no reason to do it because it's just going to be repeating some of the things that I've already said. But you can see how the Lions could find themselves into a tough situation, but walking on the other side of it, walking out with a premier player. If they fall in love with a quarterback, they obviously believe that quarterback is a premier player. I'm telling you, Jalen Carter and Will Anderson are premier players. It's a good problem to have. So that's kind of that's draft dump week 1. Have a great weekend. We'll chat for the Lions week 11 matchup next week. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you guys later. Bye.